We think it makes no sense to tell the whole story from the very beginning, because the whole world is already screaming about it. Let's start on the morning of February 24th. The Russian president had a message about a covert military operation. According to the Russian president, the Ukrainian Nazis have seized power and are holding it with the help of decorative electoral procedures. Putin made an appeal not only to the citizens of Russia, but also to the whole world. In fact, it was a statement about the outbreak of war on the territory of defenseless Ukraine. Disclaimer: probably, it's worth saying that the people of Russia did not want this war. They were against its beginning and still remain against its continuation. It was as much a blow to us as it was to the whole world. Believe me, it's not only scary for people who are sitting in bomb shelters, hugging their loved ones and praying that all this will end soon. It is also scary for the residents of Russia. We are also horrified by what is happening. So officially, Putin said that Russia will strive for the demilitarization and denazification of Ukraine. However, what is happening now is not what he said. The troops of the Russian Federation are seizing the territory of Ukraine. We are not talking about border zones, where, as he said, his protection was required, but about the whole country and the heart of Ukraine, Kiev. Quote, "It was necessary to immediately stop this nightmare, this genocide of millions of people who rely only on Russia, only on you and me," Putin explained. The fantasy of a knight on a white horse galloping across the Russian field to meet the liberated nation and the people bowing before him is presented. But it was not particularly clear what kind of genocide we were talking about, who was asking to stop it and who all these people were, whom only Russia could save. The fact is that one person made a choice for the whole of Russia. One person decided that he had the right to bring another country to its knees and all those saved by him. The equivalent would be if he went to a country of the same scale, and he chose not only a much smaller country, but also one that, in principle, does not take part in political battles. Now let's look on the other hand, where Ukraine stands. Its leader appeals to the feelings and emotions of people, asks Russians to take to the streets and say that they are against this war. One might think that his move is too stupid, especially if you put it on a level with Putin's threats and aggressive attacks. But the leader of Ukraine at least talks to his people and the inhabitants of the enemy country, which cannot be said about the dictator, who is protected by the walls of the Kremlin. You are told that this flame will bring liberation to the people of Ukraine, but the Ukrainian people are free. Ukraine in your news and Ukraine in life are two completely different countries. They tell you that we are Nazis, but how can the people who gave more than 8 million lives for the victory over Nazism support Nazism? The people of Ukraine want peace. The Ukrainian authorities want peace. But Russia continues to ignore the plea of the whole world and requests to stop the massacre. Instead, Russia is driving itself into a dead end and watching the whole world cut off relations with Russia. Almost all countries have spoken out against us. Almost all countries of the world have imposed sanctions against Russia. The war is not only on the border with Ukraine and not only in its capital. The war is also going on in Russia. But that's what no one talks about. We are gradually being disconnected from all social networks, every second story on Instagram with a link to the Telegram channel, so that people do not lose touch with each other, since Telegram remains almost the last means of communication. Residents of Russia in a panic run to banks, withdraw money from cards, because they stop working. Bank employees are forced to work 7 days a week because of the crowds of people. In stores, there are ads about the request to switch to cash and Russian Mir cards. Soon only one payment system will work in Russia, the world. Banks stop issuing mortgages, people are afraid for their loans, the economy is falling to the level of the 2008 crisis, and at the moment it continues to fall even lower. Prices for equipment have almost doubled in a day. At the moment, the drawdown has already exceeded the falls caused by the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic in 2020 and the annexation of the territory of Ukraine in 2014. Only the financial crisis of 2008 hit the market harder, financial journalist David Inglis tweeted. The chart below shows the years running horizontally, and the average stock price is indicated vertically from 0 to -80. We see that the biggest drop was in 2008 during the global economic crisis. The green circle is the collapse of domestic markets after the annexation of Crimea in 2014, the purple one is the collapse during the 2020 pandemic, and the turquoise one shows how the market collapsed today. Note that this is only the beginning of the collapse. The data sheets were made when the first day of hostilities had not yet come to an end, and the European Union was at the stage of discussing infernal sanctions. But Putin doesn't seem to care about this, about the fact that Russia can't cope alone. We have a crushing army, we can scare the people with our nuclear weapons and military successes. But without the resources of the rest of the world, we will roll back decades. A few examples to make you understand what we are talking about. Russia has its own line of processors for Russian computers, assembled on the basis of motherboards developed in Russia, which run on a very patriotic operating system. It should sound ironic and with mockery, which in fact is a clone of Ubuntu, which, of course, has nothing to do with Russia. The point is that both motherboards and processors are manufactured in Taiwan. Because there is no necessary equipment in Russia. Why? Because this is the result of many years of rule, and the thorough extermination of non-military industry in Russia. As a result, Taiwan decided to support sanctions against Russia. Even though those processors that are advertised as completely domestic, in fact, no one will manufacture more. Of all types of industries in Russia, there are factories that bring profit to the pockets of high-ranking officials, factories that work with minerals that are exported, such as coal, oil, gas, which, by the way, many countries have now refused to accept from Russia. There is the infrastructure that is required so that the people do not rebel. High technologies are completely absent in Russia, with the exception of the military industry, but developments from the 60s are still being modernized. Nothing new has been developed or created. We are also blocked from leaving Russia. Every day it becomes ever increasingly hard to leave the borders. Russia was banned from participating in Eurovision, FIFA, and a majority of all current international sports. Residents of other countries are asked not to bring flags of our country with them. Protesters are being detained in all cities of Russia, and the hunt for the media has begun. The list of foreign agents will grow noticeably in the coming days. Organizations and people who are inconvenient for the government, for example, those media outlets that tell the truth, even if they have no ties with organizations from abroad, are officially recognized as a foreign agent in Russia. They cancel programs on television if their host has spoken out against the war. Some officials resign from their posts because they refuse to receive salaries from the hands of the president. Not only are we cut off from the rest of the world, but also a thorough cleansing is taking place inside the country. During one of the rallies against the war with Ukraine in St. Petersburg, the police detained an 81-year-old woman and sent her to a paddy wagon. Thousands of people were also arrested, and this is only in one city. Quote from this woman: "Yesterday I read the news about the war and cried. My blood pressure has risen. Ukraine is our fraternal republic. I did not expect that this could be done to Ukraine, and I decided to go to the rally. I've been to rallies before, the ones that Navalny organized. I talked to the security forces there, young guys and girls. I told them, well, how is that? You are standing for a bandit, not protecting us, people. I was ready for detention. I called my granddaughter in advance, asked her to feed the cats if I was detained. When they put me in the paddy wagon, I called her again and said, don't worry, I'm in wonderful company. There were children there, wonderful, kind children, intelligent, knowing languages. I gained strength and energy from them. We sang in the paddy wagon, the girl read her poems. And these are taken away, how is it possible? Who is our country at war with? I stayed in the paddy wagon for about an hour. First, the police took my passport, checked if I was a blockade runner. Then they offered to call an ambulance. I refused. Then the police said that their superiors ordered them to take me home. Delivered. I offered them tea, but they said they couldn't do it on duty. Then the same policeman came to my house again, without a uniform. They said they wanted to apologize. I took them into the house, showed them my photo album. She said that there had never been a grandmother or grandfather in my life. Everyone died. Mom's sister died. Mom donated blood during the war. How is it possible to organize a war now? They listened, made excuses. They talked about my detention. It's not us, it's all Roshgvardia, special Russian forces which are specifically trained for arrest ordinary people, use physical force and weapons against them in case people are dissatisfied with the government. The police kept asking how I found out about the action. I said that I went out by myself, and if no one came, I would be ready to go out alone. When the police justified themselves, they added that this rally was unauthorized. I said that no one in my city can forbid me to come or not to come to the protest. And that our government is illegitimate, we did not choose it. The police didn't answer me on that. We did not choose this war. We did not make decisions that deprive people of their lives. The choice was made without our participation, both about the beginning of the war and in the presidential elections of Russia. Look at Putin, who is sitting in a bunker, afraid of catching a virus, meeting with leaders of other states, and afraid to go out to people without a crowd of guards and special troops guarding him. And what does the president of Ukraine look like against his background, who has not left his people, his country, who refuses to evacuate and declares that this is a war and he needs ammunition, not escape? We don't want to accuse or justify anyone. We just want to be heard at least by other countries. The Russian people want peace.